Hey guys, Matt here, and today I am back for day number 25 of r/ProRevenge, where today I have 3 stories lined up, 2 of which sounded very interesting to me, and one that's a bit more plain, and a bit hard to swallow, or just deal with in general. But first we're going to start off in the middle, because this story is about a cat, and if there's an animal that I love more than dogs, it's cats. Neighbor's dog kills co-worker's cat. Co-worker ruins their Christmas. Quick note, I was part of the story, but not the dealer or receiver of the revenge. Years ago, I used to work with a receptionist in a vet clinic named Margot. Margot? I'll go Margot because it seems like a French name. Margot was and still is a very sweet 65-year-old woman who has been at this practice since it was open some 40 years ago. She always had a smile, a joke, compliments, and baked goods for your birthday. She never had an unkind word to say about anyone. She was seriously one of the coolest people I have ever worked with, and she basically knew everyone, from our regular clients to our mailman's granddaughter. The only bad thing about Margot... again, I'm getting lost in how to say the name. I'm just going to say Margot. And this was not her fault, was that she and her family lived next to one of the trashiest, nastiest families I have ever met that had 2 even nastier pit bulls. I'm talking nastier than shit that had been hoarded by dung beetles for years nasty. And these dogs were constantly escaping and terrorizing the neighborhood, even trying to get into her house. Margot had asked them Margot had asked them more than once to please keep the dogs contained, especially since she had an elderly fat cat named Smokestack, and these pits had attacked smaller animals before. The family basically told her to rot in hell, that they knew what they were doing, and how dare she accuse the breed, yada yada, basically blowing her off. Margot knew there had been reports filed against her neighbours, but nothing had ever been done about it, really. So she made sure to keep Smokestack in the house to keep him safe, and was very careful to not let him out. If you had been paying attention up until this point, you'll notice I'm using the word was and had regarding old Smokestack, and it was as awful as you think. 3 weeks before Christmas, Margot had the day off and was in the garage with Smokestack filling with some Christmas decorations. Unbeknownst to her, the pits next door got out and broke through the bottom of her garage door. They went right for Smokestack before she could blink and started to tear the cat apart. Margot screamed for help, and it was only when her son and husband came out with a baseball bat that they were able to free Smokestack from the jaws of these dogs. I was working this day, and I'll never forget when she came in crying harder than I had ever seen anyone cry in my life, clutching poor dying Smokestack in her arms. Her husband had to hold her while we tried to bring Smokestack back, but we couldn't do it. It would have taken a miracle of God and then some, and he passed away. A truly crap way to go in what should have been the golden years of his fat cat life. Margot sat there for a while with his mangled body, quietly crying for a while before she finally kissed whatever part of him was still intact and stood up. She told us all, "I've got a job to do. Take care of him, girls," and then left. I figured Margot would take a few days off to be with family and then continue on with life as normal. We figured wrong. Now, when I say Margot knew everyone, I mean everyone. Right after she left the hospital, Margot gathered herself up and went to the police with pictures of poor Smokestack and told her story. The same police officers she had watched grow up for the past 20 years, from Raleigh High School middle schoolers she used to babysit to the officers they were today. They were absolutely shocked to hear what had happened to their surrogate grandma, and pushed her case to the front of the line. The case found itself before a judge whose daughter had gone to school with Margot's daughter. The judge granted an emergency dangerous animal extraction warrant to her neighbours. Of course, there was a hearing. Within 2 weeks, which I got to admit was ridiculously fast, the neighbours tried to argue that their dogs weren't aggressive. They even went so far as to accuse Margot of having it out for their family and making it all up. But their argument trickled when the dozens of dangerous animal reports were presented and finally completely dried out when Margot presented the surveillance video her grandson had gotten showing the dogs coming into her property and attacking poor Smokestack. The emergency extraction and humane destruction of her neighbour's dogs was granted. It was Christmas Eve when Margot heard a knock on her door. She opened up to see the neighbours standing there sobbing uncontrollably. They were begging her to stop animal control, that they had these dogs since they were puppies, how the kids would be devastated and it would ruin Christmas, and if she could find it in her heart to give the dogs another chance. Up until this moment, the neighbours had behaved abominably. They didn't offer to fix the garage. They never apologised for trying to slander her name in court. Hell, they didn't even pay for Smokestack to be cremated. At no point had they shown the slightest shred of remorse for what damage their dogs had done. And as the neighbours stood there, blubbering and whimpering about how this was going to ruin their Christmas, Margot looked them straight in the eye and told them, in her calmest voice, "You took away my family, so now I'm taking yours," and shut the door in their face just as animal control pulled up onto the driveway. Margot was not surprised as she watched the dogs get hauled into the truck and taken away. After all, it was her idea for animal control to take the dogs on Christmas Eve, a perk from having known the AC officer supervisor for years. Margot even made sure the dogs were euthanized before the outside Christmas lights turned on that night. The family never received the remains, nor did they ever get a chance to bring another animal into their family, as the father proceeded to drunk drive into a telephone that same night, killing him instantly. Mum went off the deep end, so CPS picked up the kids by February, and ultimately the house foreclosed in September. Despite how traumatic Smokestack's death was, I like to think that if the neighbours had shown at least some regret, Margot might not have gone as far as she did. She was, and still, the person to forgive and forget. Or maybe she ultimately knew it had to be done to push it to this point of no return before another family lost a member to these irresponsible neighbours. Either way, thank you, Margot, for making the world a little bit safer for the pets in the world. And rest in peace, Smokestack. Hopefully, I'll see you on the other side with your favourite orange sock and a can of tuna. TLDR, co-worker's cat is killed by neighbour's dogs. Co-worker destroys neighbour's family on Christmas Eve. That is just for such a cat to be killed by the dogs literally busting through the garage and attacking the cat and straight up going for the cat, like targeting the cat. I would not be surprised if the family themselves would like go after that cat. Like, obviously, probably not, but I would not be surprised because it's just like, why? Just Why did you do that? Just why? Why would you let your dogs do that shit? And let's just leave that one behind and move on to this one. Tear open our driveway to pour concrete? Fine, you'll probably enjoy having to dig the concrete out of the ground. Twice. Not about me, but about a guy I used to work with. He was a mountain of a guy, a huge Turk, but the kindest guy I ever met. He'd do anything for the people he liked. Nobody ever saw anybody get on his bad side until that fateful day. As it happens, he was also a delivery driver, and he spent most days on the road in a semi, leaving before dawn and returning quite late, if at all that day. A warehouse had a driveway large enough for him to pull the semi into and unload. The supermarket next door decided to do some renovations and expand. When they started construction, they started tearing out the brick parking lot and getting close to tearing out our driveway. Boss runs out, tells them where our property line is, and is assured they won't cross into our property. Everybody goes back inside, and nobody worries, until there's suddenly a raging bear Turk sitting in the break room, shouting about the driveway, how the driveway has been torn up, and he can't get his lorry in. We go out, and indeed, the driveway is half missing, and there's a concrete building foundation poured in. Construction workers are nowhere in sight. Boss sends the supermarket manager an email message, and everybody goes home. The next day, we arrived to the site of very angry construction workers. Apparently, the delivery driver went back in the middle of the night with some bolt cutters, liberated about 30 of their shopping carts, and stuck them into the drying concrete in various comical positions. Overnight, the concrete hardened and the cars became quite difficult to remove. Construction crew brings in the jackhammers, and 4 days later, most of the concrete is gone, and they start preparing for another pour, this time leaving our driveway intact. Foundation comes out fine, everything is looking good. At that time, my boss shows up with the announcement that he had a survey done, and while they didn't tear open our driveway the second time, they were still closer to our property line than allowed, and he already filed a complaint to get the concrete removed. It took them another week of jackhammering to get it out. It's like, we'll tear up this driveway. This driveway is not important. We'll set up our concrete foundation right here on this person's property. Then they had to dig it. I love how the Turks just come out and just put the trolleys in comical positions. I hope one of them was bouncing on one wheel. It's like, or even better, an arch. You just made an arch out of the trolleys. Like, you got two in the concrete and the rest are being supported to make an arch. That would be way better. It's just like, at one point you're just gonna have that one person that's just like, yeah, just pushes it. TLDR, construction crew tore open our driveway and poured concrete on our property. Gave them a physical reason to dig it out one time and a legal reason to dig it out a second time. I love how dumb. It's like, you've been told what the property line is, and then you fuck it up. And last story of the day, me and Karen, a love story. Just kidding. Karen. Karen is a total bitch, but buckle up because here is my novel. My husband and I are in late 30s and child-free. Some people on child-free said I should post here too, so enjoy the saga. My husband and I have been saving up for almost a decade to move to a tropical paradise. About 2 years ago, we bit the bullet and moved to our dream location. Housing here is super expensive, like Hawaii prices. So all we could afford was half a duplex. It is beautiful and on the water with places for our boat. Unfortunately, Karen and Billy Bob, the boyfriend, and her 3 gremlins live in the other unit setup. There is some period of time we just went for a week here and there, but we live here full time now. I just hit my mic, sorry about that. The entire duplex was owned by an older gentleman who rented out both sides. The sides do not match at all. One side is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. The other side of the duplex is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We bought the 5-bedroom. On our side of our property, we have 90% of the backyard, the gazebo, and dockage, about 150 feet, since it is on a corner. The other side has a small backyard, patio, and maybe 50 feet of dockage. The retail leases say the renters are entitled to their specific backyards, but there were no fences or anything, so all the retailers shared the entire backyard. After we bought the house, Karen immediately tried to throw her weight around that they expected to continue with that privilege. I told her if she asked politely, we would try to accommodate her. She thought this meant she could use her backyard whenever she wanted. The party incident. One day, my husband and I are enjoying some drinks outside when a delivery truck shows up to set up a giant blow-up thing in our backyard. I asked Carrie what the fuck she thought she was doing, and she said it was for her kid's birthday. Then she had the girl to say it was a family and friends only, so we had to stay inside our house. Not wanting to be a total asshole and ruin some little girl's birthday, I told Karen after this she had no access to our backyard, period. Karen shrugged and kept setting up for the party. During the party, a drunk adult wandered into our house, which shocked us all. I said Karen's house is the other side, and he said, "Oh, Karen said she owned the whole property and to use whichever bathroom was available." I directed him to Karen's bathroom, and soon after she came storming into our house, screaming about how dare we make her look bad to her friends, and how selfish we are we couldn't even spare one bathroom. She said we didn't deserve all this space with just us. I told Karen to get the hell out of my house or I would be calling the cops. She finally left and the party wrapped up shortly after. Backyard remodel. After the party incident, we decided we needed to clearly define the backyard and build a fence. We were spending the money and we decided to update the patio, put in a fire pit and an outdoor kitchen. While the contractor was on site, nosy Karen had to come investigate. Since the fence would be the last thing built, I was vague and just stuck to telling her about the patio update. You could see her face light up because of course in her mind, what's ours is hers. When the workers started on the fence, Karen came out screaming for the work to stop. I went outside and told the workers to keep working and told Karen to butt out. Of course, in true Karen fashion, she called the cops. What happened next was hilarity on my part after explaining to the cop that we were building a fence on our property and the landlord, of which Karen was not, knew about it. When the cop gave Karen a stern lecture, I thought her head was going to explode. She went back into her house and slammed the sliding door so hard it sounded like something cracked. We got our fence and I thought it would be the end of that, but of course not. The boat incident. One day Billy Bob entered the picture and he was as much a horrible neighbor as Karen. He would throw cigarette butts and empty beer cans over our fence for disrespecting his woman. I didn't know Paradise had trailer trash, but Billy Bob was the epitome of the stereotype. Billy Bob has a boat. A 30-foot fishing boat to be precise. Of course, that side of the duplex only has 15 feet of dockage. Since we have so much dockage and only one boat, we rent out the other dockage spots as month to month. People will come and go, so if we don't receive rent from them by the end of the month and the boat disappears, we think nothing of it. We had a renter who tied up their boat on the property line, but Billy Bob wanted to park his boat and needed that space. Karen and Billy Bob posed as us. We were out of town and told the renters to be gone at the end of the month, and then parked Billy Bob's boat on the dockage. I only found out about it weeks later because the renter left a nasty review on the rent site we use. They said we were rude and went back on the verbal agreement to let them stay for 3 more months. I was like, what the fuck is all this? After a phone call, I quickly put 2 and 2 together. I called the cops who told Karen and Billy Bob they need to move their boat or it would be towed. No, the equivalent of it anyway. Karen and Billy Bob started screaming the boat is fully on their property. It isn't. Then changed to no one can own the water. True, but a seawall is deeded. That we are liars, and at some point Billy Bob punched a cop and went to jail. I felt bad for the cops, so took them all snacks the next day with a note apologising for neighbour drama. I ended up winning my small claims suit against them for lost rental income, but of course I haven't seen a dime. I eventually convinced the dockage renters to come back and give them a few months free as compensation. The final revenge. If you've made it this far, congratulations! Get ready for a juicy justice boner. So, with the collapsing market, we were trying to figure out what to do with our savings when a perfect opportunity opened up. The landlord who offered both properties was in desperate need of some cash and was tired of managing the property from 2,000 miles away. Because of course Karen is a Karen and called him weekly for every little thing. His only stipulation was that we let the poor single mum who has been his renter for 8 years finish her lease, which is up in July. Since we have money we were trying to reinvest, and because now we get to control our neighbours, heck yeah, we jumped on that. Since we didn't need a realtor or mortgage, and an inspection had just been done, had been done just a year ago for the old landlord to refinance, everything closed in just under 2 weeks. Karen was aware of a change of ownership. We registered the property under an LLC, but didn't know who until 8 days ago. I went over to Karen's house and knocked on the door. Karen answered with a, "What the fuck do you want, cunt?" I smiled, handing over our landlord information, and sweetly reminded her rent was due by Friday, but she could just hand me the check if that was easier. I've always heard descriptions of people's faces turning white, but this was the first time I have actually seen it. I told Karen that we are honouring her lease until the end of July, but afterwards she had better make plans to move because we instead intend to remodel it before the next tenants move in. Bye, bitch. Oh my gosh. A lot of people misunderstood the beginning. Let's call our side of the duplex OP, the other duplex is duplex Karen. We purchased duplex OP. After we bought it, duplex OP was no longer a rental. Both duplex OP and duplex Karen were for sale independently, but we only had the money to buy duplex OP. Duplex Karen is still a rental because it was never sold. Now we own both duplex OP and duplex Karen. Duplex Karen is still a rental. Duplex OP is still not a rental. When we made property improvements to duplex OP, it was ours and not a rental. Update 1. Not much of an update. And Karen and family's lease isn't up until end of July. Rent has been paid on time. As far as I know, she doesn't have a new place lined up. We served her 30-day notice. We will not be renewing the lease. We also offered in writing that we will prorate July and waive the termination fee if they want to leave before the end of the lease. But beyond the near weekly loud parties and having to call the police because the kids were throwing lit fireworks at our boat, not much from the norm. Update 2. August 2020. Long story short, Karen and family are still in the place and not paying any rent. They were served with eviction, but due to COVID stuff, we can't actually do anything about it. At least Karen and Billy Bob had a giant fight which ended up in him being arrested, and he hasn't returned. I've been told by a lawyer once some laws are changed/removed in September, we can have the police escort them off the property that day, since we've already filed the eviction. It's just a shit show right now. Karen is being extra smug. She tried to keep pushing her bounds and kept coming over to our property. I talk with the cops, set her straight, but she's playing music loud and tossing her trash everywhere. We really wanted to move our elderly parents in after a quick remodel because Dad needs shoulder surgery badly and Mum now needs a walker. They need more care, and it's getting hard driving 2 hours a day to do that. Our parents want their own space though, and won't live on our side with us. My husband and I are just trying not to be angry and make things worse with Karen, but we are both exhausted. Things just suck. Update number 3, December 2020. Life is weird. Karen is still here since we couldn't evict her. Her partner went to stay with their parents for a few months, so in-laws could get the surgery/care they needed. They are doing better now, which is great. Here's the weird part though. In October, Karen's mother, Susan, came to live with her since Susan's landlord chose not to renew her lease. Susan is an angel! Susan was mortified at Karen's and the kids' behaviour. Susan is a tough one and has been cleaning house, both figurative and literally. The kids are so much better behaved, and Karen stomps around like a sulking child. Susan and I share drinks every few days in the backyard. We bake together too every weekend. For Thanksgiving and Christmas, since no one was travelling for the holidays, we made a big feast and set it up outside with some backyard games. It was a great time, and even Karen was being pleasant. I tried to tell Susan not to worry about rent until they find another place, but she insisted on paying. I lied about how much the rent was, so it was only a half payment, but it just covers the taxes/insurance. We drew up another lease that is month to month. Susan wants to move back home at some point and take her daughter with her. Karen, I think it's ready for a change too, but obviously with COVID, it might take some time. It's pretty pleasant right now though, so I'm not in no hurry for them to leave. That is a bit weird. Karen's actually playing nice now because her mum's there. Oh my god. I cannot believe, it takes the mum of the Karen to shop to actually get the Karen to play nice. Even if it's just because the mum's around. And on that weird ending to that story, we're going to end this episode here as well. Links will be in the description to my main channel and also the second channel that you're on right now, with links to the playlist and the last episode on screen. You can go check them out. There's a lot of stuff. Oh my gosh, the stories are just ridiculous. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding, a ding. I'm the Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist out.